read a thing without them. Ring light just gonna have to show. I forgot. People gonna be saying things, so I need to see that. Yeah, well, you see, Dr. Kafira couldn't make it, and Valeria couldn't tonight. What do you mean? Oh, we're live. Hi, Facebook family. I did not realize we were live. Come on in. Come on in, TLC, Facebook family. It's a taste fest. Go taste and see. TLC's legacy, 25 years.
Woo, woo.
And our legacy happens to be our people. And we have been blessed with so many wonderful people. And two of them are here tonight to share with us. Reverend Royce and Dr. Andrea. And you're going to learn more about them in just a minute or two. Hi, Joanna. Hi, Rhonda. Coffee. Come on in, family. Come on in. I'm excited to have both of them because both of them are, Reverend Royce has been into the arena of healing forever. And I can't say that Dr. Andrea has been a doctor forever, but she is a holistic doctor, Dr. Andrea. And welcome. Welcome, Dr. Royce. Dr. Royce. Royce, you a doctor too. And Dr. Andrea, welcome to Taste CTLC's 25-year legacy. Thank you, God. Yay. Well, ladies first. I guess it doesn't matter so much. Dr. Andrea, so tell us about your journey at TLC and what you do in the community to empower it so well.
Well, first of all, before I begin, I have to give my gratitudes. Before I start anything, I have to say thank you to the Divine Most High and to the Creator of all things, and to those entities that truly love and care about me for even having me in this space right now. I am so grateful. And I am grateful to you, Rev. And I will expound more on why and how I'm grateful in just a minute. But I'm grateful to you, Rev, for opening light and love to me and sharing so much with me. So I'm humbly grateful to you for the opportunity to even be here. So thank you so much. My story began with the Phenom News. I read the Phenom News for a very long time. I don't know if anybody remembers Phenom News, but it was one of the only metaphysical newspapers that I knew of back in the 90s. And Reverend Shaheerah was a consistent contributor to the Phenom News. And I would read her articles every time I grabbed a Phenom News. And I said in my mind, one day I am going to her church. One day I am going to be a part of her community. So let's fast forward some 20 years later. Here I be. So to be here is like a dream come true, to be honest. And it actually came full circle because I began this path when I divorced my first husband. I was in a space where I did not like the woman that I had become. And my life was literally falling apart. I became a single mom, raising, 5 children. And though I had a village, and I'm so grateful for the village that I had, it was still on me as a mom. And not knowing what I was going to do, I decided to change everything about my life. But it only came after I went to the doctor. Doctor said, hey, you've got tonsillitis, bronchitis, hay fever, constipation. You've got all these things going on. And you're going to have to change your lifestyle. Otherwise, these things are going to get worse as you get older. So I took her words to heart very much. And I went to Burger King and I got my last supper. So I got a Whopper, I got fries, I got a Coke, I got an apple pie. And I sat at the table with that meal for 3 hours and enjoyed and savored every bite. And that was back in 1998. And that was the last time I had a Whopper. And the very next day, I was so convicted. I went vegan. No more pork, no more beef, no more chicken. I gave it all up. And from that point to this came this huge transformation, one of many. And that humble beginning back in 98 led me to where I am right now with this beautiful TLC family.
Wow. Awesome, Dr. Andrea. And Dr. Royce, tell us a little bit about your path.
You know,
How'd you get to TLC? And yeah, you can start there and then move wherever you want to move.
you know, it's interesting because I think about my very first visit to TLC and how that unfolded. But I had heard of you, Rev, and of TLC, you know, just moving in spiritual circles in Detroit. And at some point I felt like to go to service over on Plymouth. I had been pastoring at some point, not long before that, or I don't remember how all of that played out. But what I do remember is feeling led to make my way over to Plymouth one Sunday in 2009, 2010. And I was actually running a little bit late in terms of when I felt like I needed to be leaving the house. And that being the case, I went and put on something that didn't, need the attention of the iron or anything. It was already taken care of. But then, I heard God saying, "I told you to wear that purple dashiki," because that was. But I got a clear message on that, and I was like, that needs to be ironed. I don't have time to do that. I need to get there. So I'm already dressed in what I had on, and then so I go and I end up putting on the purple dashiki after I was gently rebuked in the spirit, and made my way over to TLC, and I got there, and I'm listening to you talk, Rev, and I'm like, oh, I hear something that sounds real familiar, and I'm thinking in my mind, she must be a Libra like me. So, I leaned over and asked the person who was sitting next to me, "Rev Shaheerah's birthday?" And I don't remember if they knew or not, but I remember hugging you after the service and asking you, and then you said, if memory serves me correctly, September 29th.
Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, it was such a wonderful experience because one of the things that I have always and continue to value, respect, and appreciate about TLC, the love is obvious, but also something that was significant for me as a minister, having come out of the Baptist church, was the authenticity, the vulnerability, and the authenticity, and that really spoke to me. And for a space that dealt with profound spiritual principles and also had the flavor that we appreciate in our community. I love that, and at the same time, the just real authentic transparency and be who you are. And I would see people come and dressed. Somebody may come dressed, decked out in a suit deck. Somebody else might have on some gym shoes, some jeans, and a hockey jersey or something. And I love that because it's a space where people were free to be who they genuinely are and roll with how they're actually feeling, rather than feeling the need to put on all of these airs and
Yeah.
a lot of the things that we do that actually ends up standing in our relationship with one another, with ourselves, and ultimately with God. And so I just really, really, really appreciated that. And then one day, I was married at the time, and it was put on my heart about um, uh, yeah, I had been pastoring the little small congregation, sometimes preaching to the chairs and stuff.
You got
Um,
to have a beginning. Everybody has a beginning.
there you go. And so in the midst of that, uh, I felt led to and talked with the person I was married to at the time, um, about us joining TLC. Well, we had met you by
Yeah.
that point, Rev, and we were called up to the mic for some reason. I don't even remember why we were exactly, but you called us up to say something, and remember saying, that if you all will have us, we'd like to join, and and the rest has been history, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's how I came to connect with TLC, and I continue to just love you. I love me some you, Rev, and
And I love you. And I love Dr. Andrea too. And I
yeah,
thank God for the gifts that you guys have brought there. I thank God for the gifts that you have and the gifts that you have shared. And it leads into, you know, before the pandemic, we had our Wellness Thursdays online, and we had Dr. Andrea, we had Reverend Tia, we had Dr. Valanda, we had Dr. Anita. And it's because when I went to Africa, I saw something. When I went to Africa in 1999, many of the churches had health food stores or herb stores. The churches were, the ministers were ministering with health also. They understood about the spirit, the soul, and the body. And so that's always been important to me. And even tonight, the title on the flyer is The Mind Body Dynamic. So either of you can start with how important it is for us to understand that.
Well, just speaking from my personal experience, going through the my going through my divorce was stressful. And then you couple that with being a mom, and then you couple that with having to go to work, and then you pile on top of that not liking who you are, and not being happy. Um,
Mhm.
and for me, the mind, the soul, I like to say soul, mind, and body, because the soul is the general of it all, so to speak, and my soul was not at ease, which is the reason I had so many health issues, because my soul just wasn't at ease. And I did not know that my soul was not at ease. So I had to take time to be by myself so that I could cultivate a relationship with my soul.
Mhm.
And for me, that was the way that I began my personal relationship with God, the divine most high creator. And I discovered through prayer and meditation consistently why my soul wasn't at ease, why I didn't like myself. And once I began cultivating that relationship, it was easier for me to hear God's voice. it was easier for me to then hear what my body was saying. And it was easier for me to understand why my mind was not settled. Because once I started talking to the soul and hearing God's voice, then God began to allow the body and the mind to speak to me to lead my steps toward health and wellness. And this is the relationship I believe people should begin to cultivate within themselves. And the first step is whenever you find yourself in chaos or in crisis, you have to be still. You have to take the time to feel what you feel, go through what you're going through, and use God as your spiritual anchor. And whatever depths of despair or whatever depths of joy that you find yourself in, allow God to lead your steps. Allow God's wisdom to come through you to tell you what's next, what's next is for you. And that's how I began my journey. And believe it or not, that journey led me to school, which led me to becoming a doctor, which led me to publishing a book, which then led me to TLC. It all began because of my thirst to get to know my soul's voice, which was the God voice within.
Yes. Beautiful. What's the name of your book? I didn't know you had a book.
Yes. It's Backyard Medicine, and it's on Amazon. I can put the link in the chat for people who are
Okay.
interested.
It's called Backyard Medicine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you're
And
gonna
what I talk about, the connection between the soul, the mind, and the body is in the book. And I also talk about intermittent fasting, which is really, really also very key when you find yourself in a space where you need to connect. It helps a great deal. And I also just talk about
why does that help a great? Why does intermittent fasting help a great deal to be able to hear? Why does fasting help? Because it does.
fasting helps because you're allowing the body a break from the process of digestion, right?
Okay.
Digestion is a huge job for the body.
Okay.
And if you eat a lot, it's even bigger. So when you allow the body to just not have to digest anything, the body then can help alleviate whatever stresses that would cause, allowing you to actually get tired, which is what you're supposed to get tired when you're fasting so that you can rest.
Yeah.
So when you rest and you allow your body to rest, it's easier to connect because you're in a state of either dreaming state or you're just in a state where you're not doing anything and you're allowing the mind to either wander or you're allowing the mind to answer questions and you're allowing the mind to just be. And it's in that space where you can connect the deepest with the God within.
Yes. Awesome. What you got to say, Reverend Royce?
Oh,
Thank you.
um, I didn't really mention earlier anything as far as my own healing journey is concerned, but it seemed like I was always sick as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult. And my own personal experience was that I never felt better taking medicine, like Western medicine. In fact, I felt worse when I did. And things ended up unfolding in such a way where I ended up studying with a brilliant man and beautiful soul, Chinese doctor and Shaolin Kung Fu grandmaster and all of this. And I went through this training, and in this training there was a medical doctor, an MD, that had been practicing medicine for 35 years. And he said he learned more about healing than he did in all of his years of grade school, of college, of medical school, residency, fellowship, and 35 years of practicing medicine. And I was just blown away at seeing how it seemed like no matter what the situation was, what the health situation was that a person was dealing with, he seemed to know what the root of it was. And it was always something beyond what would just generally meet the eye.
Mm-hmm.
And in my process, I ended up doing some studying, receiving some certifications, ultimately doing self-healing to develop and teach a methodology. And Transcending the Matrix is the name of that particular methodology I've been teaching for. Will be
A long time. You've been teaching that a long time.
Yes. And so I'm at a point where it is just infinitely clear to me that everything going on in our body, whether our body temple or our body of affairs, is connected to the stuff that's going on in our mind. And I say the mind is to distinguish it from the brain, because the mind exists within a single specific place of the body in the head. But the mind exists within every cell of the body, so to speak. Okay. And like every cell of the body has essentially its own brain, its own job, its own function, its own responsibility. And the goal, the idea, is for every cell of the body to be working towards and contributing towards the greater good of the whole, being the body, in a similar way that we as various people are all ideally supposed to work together for the greater good of humanity, how all the members of creation are ultimately, ideally, called to work together for the greater good of the creation itself. But the reality is that there are things that happen in the course of our lives, things that end up being passed down ancestrally and otherwise, where we miss the mark. And in the process of our missing the mark, and we take on these different things that although untrue, we take them in as our programming. And not that somebody else is to blame for our programming, because it's on us what it is that we let in, what it is that we take, what it is that we accept as part of our reality. And then as a function of those things end up getting inside of us and manifesting sometimes in unpleasant ways, sometimes in issues that deal with hypertension or heart disease, diabetes, different things of that nature. And the reality is that we often miss, what is really at the root of these different things that are going.
The root. Yes, the root.
Yeah, and so that's what I really focus on, is getting to what is the root of what's going on. And like a story that I share sometimes, and this is one that just sticks with me. It stuck with me over the years, and that's of this lady who she was limping. She had been limping for about 3 months or so, and one would say that the cause of her limp was that she had sprained her ankle or twisted her ankle. And how she came to sprain or twist her ankle was a little bike accident. And it's easy to discern, okay, she's limping because her ankle is in pain. Her ankle is in pain because she strained it. She strained it as a result of this bike accident. But like, to me, what I had to look at is, okay, well, why did she have the bike accident? So the bike accident was the catalyst that brought up this particular issue of her particular, her having this accident and spraining and all of this. And what was really at the root of it was really just had to do with the birth order in her family. At the time that she was born, she had 2 older brothers. And like a little sister of mine, she had a very special spot in the family. She was the only girl and she was the baby until her sister was born, like 13 months later. And at that point, she was neither the only girl nor the baby. And it's not like she had, you know, adversarial relationship, or, you know, with her sister as this grown person, 50 years old or so. But there was on some level, there was something there that was unresolved. And it's not something that was like consciously on her mind, but it was inside of her, unresolved.
Yeah.
And we got that resolved. And for the first time in 3 months, she walked without the limp.
Wow.
So, you know, there are tons of things, you know, that happen, you know, within our bodies. You know, we'll go and we'll try to treat it in different ways, but the root is something that's going on the inside of us. And now the reality is that most of us won't necessarily make that connection per se.
Right.
But, you know, the body, to me, the body is like a messenger of what it is that's going on inside of us. And if we've got these different health challenges or healing opportunities going on inside of us, it's an indication that there's something that's out of balance in the non-physical that we haven't caught yet. So what is it that I'm supposed to learn in this situation? What is it that I've missed? What is it that I need to bring into harmony and bring into some level of resolution? And then that I've seen it happen thousands of times with people, you know, all over the globe. And to me, it's a beautiful thing to see.
It is beautiful.
Have that release and that transformative experience from the pain or the suffering or the sickness or dis-ease that they had been enduring.
So I love it when you said that the body is a messenger.
Mm-hmm.
So the body's trying to tell us something.
Yeah.
The body talks. There used to be a guy, I don't know if he does it, 2 people I knew in the Michigan area who that was their service that they gave to people was BodyTalk. You would go, they would lay their hands on it, and they would tell you what's going on. So making the subconscious conscious is important.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation is important so that people can get in touch with the deeper parts of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Forgiveness is important.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually very key. It's so awesome you mentioned that, Rev, because as Reverend Royce was speaking, you know, as he mentioned, the body is the messenger that carries the messages from, you know, what's going on within. I liken it to tofu. You know, if you cook tofu, it takes on the flavors of whatever you put in it, right? You put salt, pepper, hot chili peppers, whatever. It's going to absorb all of that and take on all those flavors, where the body is not any different, you know. So whatever's going into the body, be it physical or emotional or even mental, the body's going to absorb all of that. And then it's going to express whatever that is. So that beautiful story Reverend Royce told about the young lady spraining her ankle and then discovering that it goes to something deeper going on inside of her. That is what holistic practitioners do. So I really don't care what modality you practice, you know, or whatever modality is your business. That is the foundation of what we do as holistic practitioners, right? Which is the reason why what we do has such miraculous results with lots of people. People can resonate with the fact that I've gone to the doctor, I've gone to several specialists, and I'm still dealing with XYZ123. and they go and see a holistic practitioner, and within weeks, their body is done with the dis-ease or disorder that existed, because we get to the root of what's going on. 9 times out of 10, that root has an emotional component to it. 9 times out of 10, that emotional component has a spiritual root to it, right? So it's very, very, very important that people understand that in the process of discovering the root, you have got to do the work to pull up the root and look at it. Now, folks say,
that part.
Yeah, that part is, and it can be really, really deep for a lot of people, right? And people run away from not wanting to pull up that root, let alone look at it. However, in order for the physical body to no longer express that dis-ease or disorder, you've got to pull up that root, emotional root, and you got to take a look at it, because the soul's message is in the root, right? So if you don't pull it up and you don't take a look at it, then the soul can't tell you what's going on, because you refuse to listen,
Wow.
And I'm sure, people, holistic practitioners across the board can tell you hundreds and hundreds of stories of people that they've seen that come back and come back and come back, because they either don't want to do the work, or they want an easy way out of doing the work, or they want to skirt around the issues of what's really going on. And at the end of the day, you've got to sit down with you, and you got to get to the root, so that you can get the soul's message as to how to disconnect it and how to heal.
Wow, that's awesome. Yes.
Yeah, that's
You there? Did we freeze?
It seems like
Okay. Royce, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I disagree. I agree wholeheartedly with that piece about the root, and I share that a lot of times too, because like I give an example, if you've got something in the trash and it's beginning to create some odor, you can put a plug in the wall. You can light some scented candles. You can do some essential oil therapy. You can light some incense. But all of that is just masking the issue. Okay. You might not be consciously aware of the smell. The smell's still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's just covered to where you're unaware of it for the time being. But the only way that you're going to actually get rid of the smell is to remove the cause of the smell. And similar with the weed, if you've got a weed growing in your garden, you can chop off the weed down to the dirt, but it's just going to grow back up. Mm-hmm. Because where the real problem is going on is underneath the surface. And that's what's going on with us. So often we don't have a clue what is really going on, because it's going on underneath the surface. And as far as just digging underneath the surface a little bit, so that we can uproot that thing, which is seeking to choke the life out of all of the good and wonderful things that are wanting to blossom in our lives. And we were made wonderfully and awesomely, and God loves us all so much and wants to see us all enjoy full, rich, bountiful lives. And whether it's a sense of unworthiness, whether it is anger that we're having towards ourselves or others, or resentment or bitterness, or any of these different things, those things end up showing up as weeds in our garden. Whether it's unresolved issues with mom or dad, or a teacher, or whoever it might be, those things end up showing up in the body. And, even the place in the body where things might show up can be an indication that could point to some of the things that are going on. You know, it kind of
Okay,
made me,
let's talk about that a little bit. Let's give them a few examples. Like
okay.
I thought immediately of the breast. Like I know
Mm.
that a lot of times when people have those breast issues, what nurturing, lack of nurturing.
Yes, it could definitely be some issues related to nurturing, as far as could be nurturing the wrong things, putting energy into the wrong things. It could be resentment towards things that you failed to nurture. Um, you know, and you know, I kind of see the what side of the body something is on is giving some indication too, where the left side of the body being the feminine side of the body, right side of the body being the masculine side of the body. And so even what side of the body something might be on, an issue might be on, can be an indication of, it could be an issue with an actual man or an actual woman. It could be, you know, with the left side of the body being the feminine side of the body, it's also the spiritual side of the body, the emotional side of the body, the creative side of the body, the receiving side of the body. Whereas the right side of the masculine side would be the active part, the intellectual part, um, the doing part of the body, so to speak. And so, like that example that I gave earlier, one of the things with her particular case, it was the left ankle, and that was that issue with another female. In that particular case, um, her little sister, a person may have, in the case that you just gave, Rev, in terms of breast issues, um, you know, it could be an indication of not nurturing self, probably more like on the left side of the body, or maybe some issues with some other things that nurtured and maybe feel some resentment about if it's on the right side of the body. And so, to me, scripture says that we were awesomely and wonderfully made. And I have come to appreciate that so much more over the years, because anything that's going on in the body, it's like, you know, like was mentioned earlier, it's like a messenger serving as a messenger to make us aware of what it is that's going on the inside of us that we might need to resolve. And you know, I think about Reverend Bonnie, something that she told me years ago from a situation that she had dealt with many years ago with cancer. And she said how she came to see that cancer as an angel of light. And
Wow.
to me, that's such a beautiful, well, she's an awesome soul, you know. Anyway, but you know, to be able to see what most people would consider to be this horrendous, terrible thing, she was able to embrace it in a way that, rather than it having a hold on her, she was able to see, and not everybody can do this so readily, but she was able to see the gift in it. And the gift was helping her to look at and examine some areas where she was needing some healing internally. And that internal healing ended up being key in bringing about the external.
I think
We
that
hear
is so
people.
important.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Andrea.
I was just going to say, that is so key to healing, the gratitude part of it, right? You have to, I there's a process, right, in healing. Forgiveness is a part, gratitude is a part. And, you know, I have to thank Reverend Shaheerah for this lesson that I learned, which blew my mind. She said to me, I was sharing with her a situation I was going through, and she said, "So, did you forgive yourself?" And I was like, "Yeah, that. I'm sorry. Do what again?" She said, "Did you forgive yourself?" And I, me, not me forgiving the other person, but me forgiving me for making the decision to do whatever that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, or, for me saying those things that may have hurt someone, that caused the chaos between me and another person, right? And, with Reverend Bonnie sharing her story about the cancer, saying that it's an angel of light, and she gave gratitude for the lesson that it brought. We have to learn how to say, it's likened to the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer that I learned from Enid, right? Enid teaches that prayer where it talks about, I love you, thank you, and I'm sorry. Forgive me if I don't remember all of it.
Oh,
And please forgive.
Ho'oponopono.
Yeah.
Ho'oponopono.
Yes. And that prayer is the epitome of the healing process, in my opinion, because you have to do all of those things for yourself before you can begin to do those things to find peace. You have to do that before you can find the peace in order for the body to be at peace. So forgiving self, having gratitude for whatever it is that you're going through, in whatever stage of that healing process that you're in, having that, I got up today. I may not feel the best, but I got up today. I'm breathing. My eyes are open. I may not look the best right now because I'm not feeling my best right now, but I'm here. And those two components right there, I think, are the biggest pieces that people have the hardest time with: the forgiveness part and the gratitude part. Because when people don't feel good, they don't want to forgive. And when they don't feel good, they definitely don't want to be grateful. Mm-hmm. However, what Rev has always taught us in our process of growing up spiritually, you have to be grateful for where you are in order to have space to go where God needs you to go. Because you can't move if you're not grateful for where God put you. So those two things and those two components in the healing process are key.
That is key. Yeah. And again, I don't know. I just keep believing in my heart that if people understood, then it would be easier, because that's how I am. When I can really understand something, okay. So I think that if people could really understand that whatever has happened, they've called it in, and that part of them that has never been sick can't get sick, it's still in there. Do whatever needs to happen so you could reach that part for your healing. Because we are gods. We're little gods. We're an expression of gods. And we have this crazy power within us that some of us don't touch. The answer's in here.
Yeah, very, very key. And what's really awesome about that too, Rev, is science is proving it. That is what's really awesome about all of this. Everything that we're talking about right now, science has proven to be true, which I think is crazy because years ago, our just having the conversation was called quackery. Just mentioning these things. Oh, you crazy. Oh, that's woo woo, voodoo, hoodoo, shoodoo stuff. I don't want to talk about that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Fast forward to the modern technology that brings us the science of all of it. Science proves that when there is stress in the body, illness quickly follows. Exactly. Science has also proven that emotional stress is at the root of 80% of what's going on in the body that's at dis-ease or in disorder, right?
Yes.
So now that we've got all of this science to back up what our ancient ancestors already knew and taught us, now people are jumping on the bandwagon of alternative medicine or holistic practitioners, et cetera, so on, right? So it's like we're getting our due, yet at the same time, people are still skeptical, even with seeing the miracles occurring in other people's lives when they take a different path toward their disorder or disease. So it's really about it really is about stepping out on faith and knowing that the divine intelligent one that built everything that we see, hear, feel, and touch is a divine intelligence that exists in you, right? And you
Yes,
can tap into that divine intelligence whenever you get ready because it's here whether you believe in it or not. you know,
exactly.
Whether you
Yeah.
believe or not, it exists, right? And even science is proving that there is a source not named, right? There is a source that's not named that existed prior to the universe's existence. There's an energy source that's there that was there before the Big Bang, right?
Right.
So
Uh,
knowing, just not even giving it a name, not even, putting a religion to it. There is a
right.
source of
Yeah.
energy that exists in the universe, and that energy is source that you can tap into just by breathing,
Yes. Yes.
right?
And
You can just,
and
yes,
focusing too. That's
yeah,
what I've been these last 2 months. I've been studying Joe Dispenza's work on
mm,
that and doing those
yes,
meditations
yeah,
because he is saying, and I know it's true that this meditation that we do, and once we tap into this third eye, this pineal gland, that's the master.
yes,
Once we tap into that quantum, once we
yes,
get the mind out of the body, we get out the way for that spirit to heal us. And people are. I mean, it's phenomenal when I'm looking at all of these videos, people walking up out of wheelchairs. My
yeah,
friend, my friend, somebody that I know personally, did those meditations. She had such a severe heart condition. She was going to emergency 2 and 3 times a week. She thought it
oh
was
wow,
the end of her life. Guess what? She doesn't have the heart condition anymore. She
woo,
doesn't have it anymore because we don't and I'm not sitting here to say I got it either. Oh yeah, but I'm seeking it because I want it. I want to
yeah,
know more and more. And my life gets better and better the more I study and the more I'm open and the more I'm open to learn. Um yeah, so when she called me, she said, Shahira, you just got to check it out. So I've been passing this on to some people. One of my friends is in a wheelchair, another was diagnosed with something very serious. I just want them to understand it's possible. That's the thing. When these doctors hook that incurable and tell you what it's going to be, and you accept that, that's what it's going to be because that's what you've accepted in your mind.
yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's unfortunate, And oh, I'm so grateful to hear about your friend, because those are the types of stories that people need to hear on a
Yes.
regular basis. And
Yes.
so I saw in the comment that one of the audience members asked what meditation, and Reverend Shahira is referring to a technique called
No, it's not. It's
transcendental
called
meditation.
no. You go this meditation is on YouTube and it's called Blessing the Chakras. That this particular
Ah,
one
okay.
called
Okay. I
Blessing the
stand corrected. Okay.
Blessing the Chakras. And I've learned
Okay.
so much about that because I didn't understand, even though I knew about chakras and I knew, because at Unity we have the 12 powers. But I didn't understand that if we don't get those first three, that root, that
Mm-hmm.
sacral, and that other one, it when you're just trying to survive, you can't if you never get to the heart, you'll never get to the pineal. You'll never get to the place where the real power exists. And it's the heart. We got to
Mm-hmm.
deal with love and forgiveness for
Yeah.
and for ourselves. Because if people say, I love me, but you're not even loving yourself enough to get rest. You're not even loving yourself enough to drink enough water. You're not even loving yourself to sit down and eat. There's just so many ways people don't love themselves. I'm learning. I'm learning. I'm learning to love me because I was programmed that it was all about others.
Mm.
All about others. And being a Libra too. Royce, you know what I'm talking about? We're
Mm-hmm.
just the giver. And there's nothing wrong with it, but you got to give to you first. Boom. Did we freeze?
No. That was pretty. That was basically a mic drop on that, right? And and what's so interesting, and I was thinking about this a little bit, Dr. Andrea, when you were talking and saying how Rev dropped a bomb on you with the piece of did you forgive yourself, and something that I thought about, and this is something I speak with people about sometimes, and that's actually even forgiving God. Because pretty much everybody on the planet has been mad at God.
Yep.
But
that's true.
who's willing to admit that they're mad at God? The shame of that. I mean, how can I be mad at God, right? But that doesn't mean that it's not so. And it could be mad at God because God didn't protect me from this situation. God allowed this to happen. God didn't answer this prayer the way that I wanted it to be answered. And what I've come to learn and appreciate, at least from the perspective that God has given it to me, is that in Christianity, in traditional Christianity, is talk about salvation, and we have all of these different areas in our lives where we've experienced things that we haven't reconciled, that we haven't resolved, things that didn't sit quite right with us for whatever reason. And we kind of tuck those things away somewhere where we don't want anybody to see it, don't want anybody to touch it. We're really trying to protect ourselves from experiencing that pain again. And it's in an attempt to protect ourselves, but what we're really doing is we're also blocking out the light of God's love from coming into that space as well, which is,
wow.
Dr. Andrea, you were talking about the scientific aspect of it. And, to me, the same God that said, above all else, I would that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul doth prosper, is the same one that invented the law of gravity. And so,
yes.
right? And so, like, to me, it's all connected. It's all connected, but we end up having these different areas where we've closed ourselves off. We've put up walls around our heart. We've put up walls around these certain areas where we've experienced pain, and we end up being triggered as a result of anybody coming in the vicinity of pushing those buttons and triggering us in those areas where things are unresolved. And what it really comes down to is it's an area where we've separated ourselves from being able to receive God's love, God's grace into that particular space. And in the presence of, I am absolutely convinced that there is no situation, problem, or circumstances beyond God's healing and transformative power.
Oh,
But,
Exactly.
yeah,
Me
but
too.
yeah, we end up standing in our own way in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
it's not that it's our fault or that we're to blame for it, but it is our responsibility to do something differently about it if we want to experience something different. If we want to experience something better. And so I just love people, and I really, my heart goes out to anybody who's experiencing anything that is physically challenging, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually challenging. And, I believe that everything is better with the presence of God in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even though we might have areas where we want to run from God, which I've done in my own life, I confess. I was running even when I was trying to not be running at different times.
We were
But
taught to run. We were taught to
right,
run. And I think, well, I could say I was taught to fear God,
right,
right? Being
right,
in traditional church, I was scared because of the
right.
doctrine. Yeah.
And
So how you going to love what you're scared of? How you going to love what you're afraid of?
right, yeah, yeah. And so, if you're feeling ashamed about something, that's the place where God is the most needed. But
That's
what would
right.
be the kind of the knee jerk response would be like, God, you can be anywhere but over here. And over here and over here, and oh, please don't come over here. But that's but any situation like that, those are the things that you know that are most calling out for us to invite the presence of God's love into that space. And I say invite the presence of God's love into that space because God's love is there anyway. But we're talking about the mind body connection. And in our mind, if we don't accept that it's so, our experience is going to be that it's not so, even though the reality might be something very different. We'll go ahead and we'll buy into that false evidence that appears real, even though it's not.
Yes.
So, Rev, I would like to ask you, can you expound more on the meditations that you're doing to share some more of that knowledge with us? Because that's the first I've heard of it and I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So I'm going to share that. Um, First of all, he takes people away like a 4-day retreat, and they're in these meditations for very long periods of time. Sort of like what Iyanla and I went through when we went to Costa Rica last year. This kind of reminds me of that too. But the meditations, you're blessing each chakra because each chakra is holding something, especially that root. If we're for people, if it's always about survival, that's got you going all day long. So you're not reaching the heart. So you bless each chakra. It's breathing, and he teaches you how to do it. It's a lot of practice. I've been practicing for 2 months every day. I'm up to like 2 to 3 hours with the meditation. You want to be able to open up this pineal gland because he's saying it's the master gland. And when people get there, he calls it the quantum. And you're getting your mind out of your body. Now, this is something I thought about just maybe 3 days ago. I thought about when I was in church with the holy rollers, and we would praise God and we would sing the songs and get caught up in spirit. Guess what? Your mind is out of your body. And I'm thinking about all those healings I did see in the holy rollers. I think it was the same thing, that they got their mind out of their body and went into the quantum, because in the quantum, this is what he says, in that quantum, there is no time. So time collapsed and it's coming to you. Whatever it is that you're meditating about, it's coming to you. So you can relax. Because when you understand it, and this is the science, it's the quantum physics when we understand it.
I love it.
If you get it,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I was trying not to, maybe, I don't like teaching stuff that I don't really know yet, but that's just a glimpse of what I'm getting. And I'm very excited about it.
Okay. So it sounds like during your meditation, you're actually going into the chakra and actually kind of sort of like having conversations, like what's there,
Yeah,
what's
you're
going
blessing
on.
them. Yeah, on that, you'll hear it. It's guided. So basically, you just need to listen and be guided by what he's saying.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that J Love put the link in the and I guess you did too, Rev, in the comments.
Well, she does it all. I'm
Mhm.
sitting here with my hands free. She's
Oh,
doing it
okay.
all.
Okay, so she's posting it as you and as herself there.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out too.
Yeah.
Check
Yeah.
it out. And I mean, just listening to a little bit of it, there's a woman, one of the testimonies, it's called Nancy's Testimonies. This woman, like Joe, I don't know. Okay, I need to say this. Joe Dispenza got hit by a Mack truck.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Dispenza was not even supposed to walk anymore, but he left up out of there and he healed. No one heals himself, but the self-healing, him and God. And this is what motivated him to do what he does. So there was a woman, one of the sessions, she had a skiing accident. They did a surgery on her spine and she came out as a paraplegic out of that surgery through these meditations. And some of these people they meditate all day. Because if you're sick and if you can't move, what? You got time.
Yeah.
Through this process, she is not in a wheelchair. Through this process, she is walking.
Yeah.
These are living testimonies. And I'm not going to say that this is the only way that things can happen. Royce has testimonies from the work he's done. You have testimonies from the work you've done. I have testimonies from the work I didn't do. It was just spirit using me for a moment. It's all God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful thing. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when in that divine intelligence, Rev, you said that no one heals themselves. It's God. It's the God within that does the healing. And what's really beautiful about God's design of this physical body is that God made this body self-healing and self-regulating so that it could readily absorb and use those energies to allow the healing to occur. So back to, Reverend Royce's point about how the healing gets blocked is when we're standing in the way, with whatever the bitterness or, unresolved trauma or whatever the case may be. And it's one of those things that you find miraculous, yet at the same time, it's also like, oh no, that's just God doing what he do. Or doing what she do. That's what God do. That's just it.
I know.
And that's a beautiful thing to even hear, let alone believe and see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
When you said that, Dr. Andre, it made me think about going back to the science again. It made me think about something that one of the scientists that this world has revered, Albert Einstein, something that he said is that one should look at either nothing in life is a miracle or everything in life is a miracle. Because all of it is how God set it up anyway. I think it's more fun for me personally looking at everything as a miracle. But at the same time, it's how God set it all up. Yeah.
Because if a miracle is an expression of God, then everything is one.
Right.
Miracles are expressions of God.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very true.
Questions for the audience before we go. If you have any questions, would you type it into the chat box before we leave? Oh, okay. Not yet. Go ahead. Let's talk a little bit while they're putting a question in or two or a comment.
I have to share this.
Coffee's saying that meditation helped her after her major surgery. How meditation helped her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So for all of our listeners, we want to encourage you to forgive. You know, I'm always going to be talking about forgiveness because I know it's so important. Forgive yourself and do loving things for you. The self-care is huge.
Oh, self-care is really, really huge. I think
Mm-hmm.
people think of self-care as, going out and get a manicure, pedicure, get a massage, and that's cute, right? That's cute. Self-care though really is about the meditation. It really is about journaling. It really is about connecting spiritually within. And for those people who feel like they may be alone, or they may be in a space where they feel despair, and they just don't know how to get out, one of the best ways is to write it out. Get your journal, sit in the sun, put your feet in the grass, and write it out, in the journal. So why do I say go outside and put your feet in the grass? Well, scientifically, it has been proven that if you put your feet in the grass, in the dirt, in the soil, there are negative ions in the earth that actually draw negative ions from the body naturally. That's just what she do. So if you go outside, you're feeling despair, you're feeling depressed, and the sun is shining, that natural vitamin D in the sun will activate the vitamin D within you to help elevate your mood. So now you've got the negative ions coming out of your body through the soles of your feet into the earth, because you've got your feet in the grass. You've got the vitamin D coming from the sun, activating the vitamin D within you. And then whatever it is negatively that you're feeling, you're putting it on paper, getting it out of you, right? And once you're done getting all that, that stuff out of you on paper, you keep the paper, or you can burn the paper. However, the purpose of the exercise is to get the negativity out of you, so you don't study on it, or you don't fester on it, or you don't hold it in, because that can inhibit healing when you're holding in all the negativity and not releasing it. So that's a wonderful process to do if you find yourself, in that kind of a position.
That's good.
For
That's
sure.
good. Royce, you have anything to add? They don't
I,
have a
I,
question yet. You're not asking anything yet.
I do, and I'm just enjoying. Dr. You're pretty dope, I have to say. You're a cool sister.
You are too, Reverend. I appreciate you. Thank you. You are too.
And I appreciate what you were saying about all of the things that are happening scientifically and medically within the body, going outside, with your feet in the grass or in the dirt, and journaling and everything.
Yes.
And something I even thought about too is, you know, all of the nerves that are in the feet, and how being barefoot in the grass can actually activate things and release things within different parts of the body, like a reflexologist would, massaging and hitting different parts of the feet. But
Yes.
I'm just going to speak to I'm going to speak to the thing that I always speak to, and that's what my late grandfather, the way he pronounced it was love. and I want to just encourage everybody to, regardless of what the situation is that might be going on in your life, to look and examine and explore, where's a place that you can bring more love? Where's a place that you can bring more love? The way that we know that we are operating in our divinity is the fact that we're operating in love, right? And so I want to encourage anybody and everybody who's on the broadcast today that there's room to spread and expand the love. Today's Thursday, which is Jupiter's day, the largest planet in the solar system. It's about expansion. What are ways that we can expand love? What are some areas in our lives that we can expand love? And who are some people that we can send some love too. And that doesn't mean that we've got to be real friendly with everybody. Some people we need to love from a distance. Some people we need to some healthy boundaries. But how can we still be generous as it relates to holding a heart space where we're concerned, where different life situations are concerned, and where other people are concerned? The way that we demonstrate goodwill, the way that we flow in our divinity, as I said earlier, is by operating in deep love. And I've got this necklace on. This comes from First Corinthians chapter 13. Mm. And what the necklace says is love never fails. That unconditional love of God, the love that's filled with grace filled love. And that's something that is sometimes difficult for us as humans to get, that there isn't anything that we can do to make God not love us. There isn't anything that we can do to cause God to love us. We're loved just because we are. And it's sometimes hard for us to be able to accept that that's a possibility or that that's a reality. But as much as possible, I'd like to encourage us all to meditate and reflect on being loved by God, welcoming the love of God into the different areas of our lives where we feel stressed, where we feel concerned, where we feel anxious, where we feel joy, to any and every area of our lives. And then also to take it and work it in the other direction. We're called to both give and receive love, to be vessels of love, where the love is flowing in and the love is flowing out, and to realize, yes, that we do need some grace extended to us because we've messed up. We've done some foolish things in our lives. We've done some things that resulted in other people's pain as well as our own. And yes, we need a degree of grace as well. And as we come to understand how that love filled with grace is readily available for us, that we can then turn around and do a solid and extend that type of love filled with grace towards other people as well. And like I said, even though we may need to, with some people, set some boundaries in place, we can still hold a generous space in our hearts and still, rather than wishing someone ill, wishing them well on their journey, even if their journey may lead them away from us. So that's what I have to
say. Yay. Thank you. Well, there still are no questions. There is. Thank you, Reverend Royce. Thank you, Dr. Andrea. Sharon says something that I love. She's saying that meditation is vibrational currency. I like that. Vibrational currency. And we're all vibrational. We're all frequencies. That's what we are. Everybody's a frequency, everybody's energy. Mm-hmm. So pay attention to your own energy. Pay attention to how you're feeling on the inside, because it matters. It really does. When you're feeling that love, as Reverend Royce is talking about right now, you'll know when you're feeling that you're magnetizing. You're a magnet at that time. You're drawing the good to you. So it's not so much about what we're doing for other people. Whatever we're doing it for ourselves. Even forgiving, you're letting yourself off the hook. You're not. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Love yourself. Be kind to your mind. And turn the TV off. That's going to be my closing point. Well, let's pray, Janice. Let's pray out. Thank you. Let's have a little bit of music. Thank you so much, Reverend Royce. And I just want to say to everybody that these are some safe people. They're safe. These are some people that you can connect with and trust. And that's why they're on here. You need help with your healing with Reverend Royce, with his work, or Dr. Andra, or both, because they do different things, reach out. All the information is right here in this broadcast. And Most High God, we are so aware of you in this right now moment. Thank you. Thank you for our lives, just as they are. We understand that all things are still working together for good, no matter what's going on, that you are sending us messages through the things that are going on, even what's going on in our body. You are sending us messages. I thank you for greater clarity. I thank you for divine guidance. I thank you, God, for leading all of us into a better space. I know it's not your will that we be sick. As Royce quoted the scripture, which really is the scripture that I use every day of my life because of that soul prosperity. Above all, I know that God wants us to be healthy, happy, and prosperous. And for this, we do give thanks. And the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us wherever we are. Wherever we are. Wherever we are in our lives, wherever we are physically, mentally, emotionally, God is. And that's why all is well. Ashe. I love y'all. Love you, Valeria and Kafera. They couldn't be with us tonight, but they'll be back. We'll have them back another day. Love you guys.
Love you, Rev. Love you, Reverend Royce.
You too.